Okay, strength training for swimmers new to the gym. This video is basically going to walk you through what we do basically in our Launchpad programs, which is designed for swimmers who are new to the gym, maybe intimidated, maybe never been to the gym before, don't know what they're doing, and are maybe scared to just get started. We're going to talk through some methods, we're going to talk through some whys, and we're going to talk through, just what I do, how I tackle this with my clients, with my athletes. Let's get stuck in. Strength training, swimmers new to the gym. First thing you need to know is you do not need to do much to see results, especially when you're beginning, right? When you've never done something before, you can do so little of it and still see results and get away with that. So you might as well make the most of this period of time where you basically don't have to do that much and still get better. Because if you go straight in, and this is something that I hate about the swimming world, is it's just like, oh, you're 13 years old, now we're going to start giving you 8 sessions a week. Oh, now you're 14 years old, now we're going to give you 12 sessions a week. In the swimming world, we don't let things run their course, right? We don't let something run out, right? If 3 sessions a week in the pool is making you faster, you don't need to go to 4 sessions or 5 sessions. Why don't you just wait until 3 sessions stops working and then you get better? Because then you have all this stuff that you can add. And this is why we have swimmers like hitting plateaus and they're like 15, 16 years old. It's crazy. So with the gym, we're not going to be dumb about this. We are going to understand that it doesn't take very much, and we're going to try and milk that as much as we can. Even in the more advanced stuff that we do way less than most people are expecting in our memberships, for example. But once they're doing it for a while, they realize, oh, it's because actually you don't need to do that much, right? If you have the right intention, if you have the right focus, you can do so little and still see results for so long. So just getting that into your head, you do not need to do very much to see massive benefits with this. We start in terms of days per week. Our Launchpad program is designed for 2 days per week. So it's not going to get you the optimal results. It's not going to make you as fast as possible, but you are going to get better on 2 days a week. And it is a great way to start the habit, which is the next point. But the most important part of this is, for a lot of people, going to the gym and lifting some weights isn't going to be like the most fun thing that you ever do, right? Might be one of the most important things you ever do in your career, but it might not be the most fun thing. So for people who are just starting, the most important thing is that you set yourself up in a way that you want to keep coming back. So if you go to the gym a few times and you feel super sore and you feel terrible, like, chances are you're not going to want to go back. And the mental part of this is probably the most important part, because if you're not going to do this for the long term, there's no point, right? Any kind of training program, training results, you can pay extra money and skip the line with other things. But with training, with actually trying to improve your body, like, it takes time. Training results are temporary, which means if you do 1 week of amazing training and then you take a week off, you're back where you started or worse. So we have to stack training, and that is the most important part. You have to do training in a way that is going to make you want to come back, because that's the only way that you will ever possibly improve. So the habit is very important, doing things that don't suck. And then, just a side note, and we can go into this in other videos, but you do not have to make your strength training swim specific. If you do make your training swim specific and you're trying to do backstroke with bands on land, you're trying to do butterfly on land, first of all, that is not strength training. You are never going to be able to challenge those movements the way that they're actually going to build strength. You're just going to look silly, you're going to feel silly, you're just going to get a bit tired. Second thing, you are never going to be able to replicate on land what you're doing in the pool, right? So you can do backstroke and butterfly on land, but it is going to confuse your body. It's because it's so different, the environment that you're in. When you're in the pool, you're surrounded by water. You have to deal with buoyancy. You have to deal with the hydrodynamics. you're in a different mental state. Like everything is completely different in the pool as opposed to what you're doing on land. So trying to when we're doing land training, we are trying to develop you as an athlete, as a human being. And that is like the fundamental, that is like the base of the pyramid. If we can get you to be more efficient generally, if you can move more efficiently, if you can get all your muscles to coordinate together in fundamental basic patterns, you are going to, when you get into the pool, be able to use more of that. What people make the mistake of is they try and do swim specific stuff on land, and then they end up, you're just I'm not going to get into it in this video. Okay, that's not what this is for. But you don't need to be doing swim specific stuff in the gym, right? You just need to be think about yourself as an athlete, not as a swimmer while you're in the gym. Okay, strength training. Why it matters for swimmers. The whole point is because, especially with swimming, it's so important to give yourself stuff outside of the pool that you're not getting inside the pool, because training in the pool is going to make you soft, right? There's no impact in there. There's no real heavy loads. You need strength training to basically for like your general health and to give you stuff that you can't get in the pool. Other sports, if you're playing like football, if you're playing sports where you're running about, you're getting this impact. You're getting your body is hitting load. You're having to lift heavier weights because you're moving your body weight faster and it's more varied, right? Every step you take on that. Swimming is this, you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's not very high impact. So you need to balance that out with strength training is a great way to give you all of the stuff that you're not getting in the pool that are absolutely essential for you to be a great athlete and for you to be a great swimmer. So it's ironic that a lot of the stuff, not ironic, but the stuff that you're doing in the pool helps the stuff that you're doing in the pool, but it doesn't give you anything outside of the pool, really. If we're talking athleticism, and stuff outside the pool is going to absolutely help stuff you're doing in the pool and everything you do. General strength, mobility, and power, we've already talked about that. We're staying general in the gym for the most part, right? When we talk about swimmer focused or swimmer specific, it just means that we're keeping a swimmer in mind. We're understanding the demands of what you're doing in the pool. If you're doing tons of volume in the pool, we're not going to do tons of volume on your shoulders in the gym. We're going to understand that you're already doing that in the pool. So we're going to do other stuff in the gym. Whereas other sports might need to do more higher volume shoulder stuff. But for swimmers, probably not. So that's what that means. It doesn't mean that we're training you like a swimmer in the pool. It just means that we're aware of what you're already doing in the pool, and then we're adjusting based on that. Support, speed, injury prevention. Don't really need to talk about that. We've already gone through that. So, number one thing when we're starting, habit comes first. Consistency, intensity, and the way that we do this is we keep the session short and simple and not suck. And that is why we use the method that we're going to come on to in a minute. Because it's short, you don't have to mentally big yourself up too much for it, because we're only doing one set of each exercise. That's it, right? You can get in, you don't need some crazy long warm-up. The barrier to you just starting is very low, right? If you read Atomic Habits by James Clear, like the most important things to starting a habit is just to make it easy to start, right? Removing the barriers. So if you have this massive plan, it's complicated and it's hard, then you're not going to turn up. You're not going to create that habit. You're not going to get the long-term results from it. Building the routine is the number one goal. So that's the whole goal of this, is to start getting results without it sucking. So that kind of comes on to this, the 1x20 method. I came across this, I can't remember how many years ago, but Michael Yesis came up with this system. He was a strength coach and a researcher, and he spent a lot of time with the Soviets. He didn't get this from them, but this is his own thing. But he basically realized that for beginners and for people in the early season, you didn't need very much to see strength gains. If we're talking about, let's talk about just strength for now. Strength gains, you can go very high intensity low reps, and at some point that's needed, right? If you're super experienced, if you have loads of training under your belt, then you're going to need to push those limits to increase, to keep building that strength, right? But if you're just a beginner, you can do so little that all you need is a moderate load, and you just need to push pretty hard, and you only need one set. And he realized through this, and there's tons of other coaches and stuff, and I'll probably attach some podcasts to this video with other coaches talking about this and their experiences with different sports and stuff. But basically, loads of people have used this in through loads of different scenarios. I've used it with swimmers and seen quicker results by doing just this one set. And you might think 1 by 20 is not very high intensity, it's not high volume, it's not high anything. That's the beauty of it. And people, because we are not doing too much, because the method forces you to not go high intensity, it forces you, because it gets hard towards the end of the set, forces you to not overdo too much with terms of the volume. It is perfect. It gets you in that sweet spot of doing just enough to get faster, just enough to get stronger, but not doing too much that you can't recover from it. Because that's what a lot of people do when they start stuff, is they start lifting really heavy weights and they start doing loads of that, and then they can't recover from it. Their nervous system just gets fried. They come back 2 or 3 days later, they try and do the same thing, and they gradually just get weaker, or they stay stuck where they are because they're not actually recovering from it. And this is actually a really important point to get into your head, is you do not get better from training. You get better from recovering from training. And this is something that a lot of the swim world somehow hasn't figured out yet. If you can get better doing one set, why would you do 2 sets? What's the point? It's like my point earlier. If you can get better doing 3 sessions a week, why would you do 5 sessions? What's the point? Why don't you wait until you have built up such a capacity that you have milked the minimal stuff completely dry, and then you move on to the advanced stuff? Because also, it's not that just you can do less and get the same results. People are getting better results using this method, right? Doing minimalist stuff, because all that's doing, when you're trying to improve, you have this period where you get worse, right? And then you recover and you get better. And then you train again and your performance goes down, then you recover and then you get better. What's happening a lot of the time is people are training, getting to here, and then they're not recovering, and then they're coming down here. And you've probably seen this graph before, but if you're not recovering, then you're not going to see the super compensation. You're not going to get better. That's what this does perfectly. It allows you to make sure that every time you step in the gym, if you're doing this twice a week, 3 times a week or whatever, every time you step in the gym, you should be a little bit stronger. And that also comes into, I don't know if it's one of these slides. We can move on to this, but that's another huge part of the mental game, is when you know that you're going to be stronger the next session, it makes you want to go because you're excited, because you're going to get that dopamine hit of, oh, I'm going to put an extra kilogram on the bar. I am going to do my 1 by 20 set, extra kilogram on the bar. That means I'm stronger than I've ever been in this exercise in this set. Amazing. And guess what? I'm going to come back in 2 days' time and I'm going to put another kilogram on the bar. And gradually you're going to build this strength slowly, but you're going to see over time, you're going to get these little dopamine hits. It's going to make you want to turn up. And again, it's going to create the habit of you turning up and getting excited about turning up to the gym, which is the most important part of all this. So what is it? Let's go into a bit more. If you actually want to start using this, if you've never been to the gym before, basically you're just going to pick, let's say in the beginning, you're probably going to pick 5 exercises, probably the best place to start. It's going to take you probably like 15 minutes. 1 set of each. You can do a warm-up set if you want to, just to get warmed up. In our Launchpad program, we do our neuroprimer to start with, and then before the first 1 or 2 exercises, we recommend that based on how you feel, you just do 1 or 2 warm-up sets of that exercise. Just probably when you first start this, you're going to want to do that anyway, just to start to get a feel for what the weights feel like if you've never been to the gym before, because we want to get you to a level where by the end of those 20 reps, you're working fairly hard. You're at like an 8 out of 10 effort. We don't want to go to complete failure. We just want to go to the point where it is tough, it is challenging, but it is not overwhelming. And usually that's like 7 or 8 out of 10. So you're going to pick 5 exercises. Usually what I would go for is a squat of some sort, or a lunge, a hinge of some sort, a push of some sort, a pull of some sort, and then something for your spine. That's usually like the bare bones basic of where I would start with this. But pick, if you want to do this completely properly, then join the Launchpad program. There'll be links for it everywhere. You'll know how to get it, or just send me a DM and I'll put you in the right place. We don't do just the 5 exercises. We go into a little bit extra stuff and some accessory things that we can have in there. But if you're not going to do that, then this is probably the best place to start. 5 exercises. Push, pull, squat, hinge, spine. 1 set of 20. Warm up if you want to. You're going to, might take you a few sessions, but you're going to get to a point where between, let's say, 17 and 23 reps is where you're going to hit that, what we call the RPE, rating of perceived exertion. You're going to hit that 8 out of 10 effort, right? So that last rep, you're like, oh, that was hard. That's about an 8 out of 10. I could maybe do 3 or 4 more reps before I like fail, before I can't lift it anymore. So we're staying away from that. Like, you do not need to go to where you're like struggling under the bar and you can't push up that last rep. We don't need to do that. That's grindy. That's not going to make you any better. Leave 3 reps in the tank is a safe bet. You're still going to get better. And then all you're going to do next time is, if you got, let's say you got 14 reps, right? And then you got to that level and you're like, okay, I had to cut the set of 14 reps. Next time you go into the gym, you're just going to lighten the weight a little bit. So if you had, let's say you're doing a back squat, not that we start people with that, but it's just an easy thing to visualize. If you've got 20 kgs on each side on a back squat and you get to 14 reps and then you're like, all right, that's it, cut the set there. Next time, you're maybe going to put 15 kgs on each side. And then maybe that'll get you up to 19 reps. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to stay with that 15 kgs each side until you get up to 23 reps. So it's not, you don't have to go to 20 reps every single set. That's not the point. It's getting you in this rough range. And then if you get to 23 reps, then up the weight. And then, so if you get to 23 reps, you might want to, instead of 15s on the side, you might want to go to 17 and a half on the side. And then that might get you to 19 reps. And then you stick with that weight until you get to 23 reps again. And then basically you just keep going. You're just staying in this range, gradually increasing the weight, gradually increasing the reps. So all you need to do each time you step in the gym is increase the weight by a tiny amount, or do 1 or 2 more reps. That means you got stronger, right? So very simple to progress. Some of the benefits of this is it's 1 set, right? It's going to take you like 45 seconds or a minute, depending on the exercise. Then you're done. You're done with that for today. You move on to the next exercise. You rest up a bit, take a couple minutes, then you do an exercise that's completely different muscle group, completely different stuff. That's one of the benefits. You can get done with this very quickly with the main strength stuff. Which means you can hit, like we do in our Launchpad program, I wouldn't start with this because it can get complicated, but you can hit other things. You can hit some shoulder mobility stuff, right, for 1x20. You can hit some knee stuff. You can hit some mobility things. You can hit, basically it gives you time to do more exercises because you're doing less of them, right? So you don't get stuck just getting really good at one thing and then being stuck being good at this one thing, right? So it allows a bit of variety of exercises in each session, which in the Launchpad program, we increase that as we go gradually. Allows you to hit lots of stuff. Great. We've talked a lot about this. So minimal fatigue, maximal process. When you first do this, you're probably going to be sore. If you start anything in the gym, anything you do is probably going to make you sore, right? That's normal. It's fine. As long as it's not going to cripple you, that's just something that is just going to happen, right? But the point is that once you've got used to that after the first few weeks, this won't make you crazy sore, right? this is going to make you hopefully feel pretty good afterwards, right? It's going to keep you fresh. Your nervous system isn't going to be fried. So you're still going to be, even in those first few weeks, even if you're a little bit sore, you're still going to be able to practice as normal, right? Fast initial gains without burnout, kind of just talked about that. Compression expansion. So if you get in the gym and you just start doing bodybuilding or you start doing powerlifting, a lot of those movements favor a compressive type strategy, because what you want to do with those is you're just trying to lift as heavy a weight as possible you're just trying to make that rep, right? So over time, what that can do is your body shape will change to make you better at that. We don't necessarily want that for swimming. So in our later memberships, what we do is we do some heavy lifting so that you can get the benefits of the heavy lifting, but then we balance it out with more expansive type work that's going to not limit our mobility. It's not going to compress us. It's going to open us so that we can actually get in the pool and we can swim long and free and loosey-goosey and not just be locked down, but we have the ability to have that power and that strength that you get the benefits from doing the heavy stuff. With the 1x20, because we're not lifting super heavy weights, we are building strength in the muscles, and we are building strength in the tendons, and we are building strength in the joints, and you're building your coordination. But you're not going to get crazy stiff from this, right? If anything, this is probably going to help your mobility. If you're lifting through a full range of motion, it's probably going to help your mobility, not going to compress you, which is a benefit of this. Very simple to progress. Short sessions, going to keep you consistent. It's going to hopefully be fun. That's why I say start with, unless you're joining the Launchpad program, start with 5 exercises, because it's not very difficult to get your head around that, right? You're going to be able, even on a bad day, you're going to turn up and be like, all right, I've got to do one set of 20 reps for 5 exercises. That's it, right? Might take you 20 minutes. Very easy, very simple, very easy. Extra advantages, balance strength, because you're able to do not too much in all the areas of your body. You're not going to, I know I call out like push-pull leg splits for swimmers a lot. With this, you're hitting full body, you're hitting multiple things every time. So you're getting a little tiny bit fatigued. Even when, you're probably not going to feel fatigued with this. You're going to get a tiny bit of fatigue throughout your body, but it's going to be balanced, rather than hitting arms one day and then you get in the pool and you can't move your arms. So you end up never, and then you have leg day and then you're only using your arms. When you're training full body, you're keeping things balanced. You are basically training in the pool with that balance. You're training how you're gonna want to swim when you're fresh and when you're tapered, not with an issue here or with an issue here. Balanced. Variety, because you're doing a few different exercises, you're not doing too much of them. You're not like making your nervous system too solid. You're keeping things open. You're just giving it a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and it's going to suck that up, right? It's going to like that. Going through these movements also is going to get you more in tune with your body, because we got 20 reps of an exercise. The first few reps are going to feel easy, right? First few reps are going to be fairly easy. Then it's going to gradually get harder and harder throughout that one set. You're going to be able to start with really good form. You're probably going to be able to compensate, but by the time you get to the end of that set, things are going to ramp up. They're going to get slightly harder and harder each rep, but because they're only getting a little bit harder each rep, you're not going straight into like things being massive load. You can adjust and you can feel things. You can be aware of, oh, when I get to rep 15, this weird thing happens and this happens with my knee, or I start to use my hips more, or you start understanding where your weaknesses are because they come on gradually, rather than you just compensating, not being able to feel that stuff. So it allows you to learn about your body. You're going to understand where your weaknesses are quickly, and you're going to be training those weaknesses, right? If you're doing like some split squats and you're like, oh my God, my glutes are on fire, it's good. You need to train your glutes more, right? Probably. Good. Next time you can't, every session you do when you're feeling that, you're probably going to feel it less and less. And it's probably going to balance out more and more to the things that should be working. But if something is majorly weak, it's going to balance itself out over time just by doing this. And that body awareness is going to transfer into the pool. Because if you're just swimming, like you've seen it so much where we've got a classic coach example is backstroke, right? You've got people who are crossing over on their backstroke, and to the swimmer, you think you're entering in here, but really you're entering in here. It's because you lack the body awareness, because all you're doing is swimming. And the water doesn't give you accurate feedback. Gravity gives you accurate feedback, right? Because if you were doing like a handstand and your arm was here, you would just fall over, right? In the water, you can get away with that stuff. So you can't necessarily feel it. But by doing some basic strength training in this way, you're going to get more in tune with your body. You're going to understand where your body is in space more, and that's going to help you make better changes in the pool. So that's really important. Builds lasting strength. So a lot of the time, if you go in, a lot of people start a strength training program and they'll go in and they'll do some bodybuilding stuff. They'll see some results for a few weeks, and then they will plateau hard and they will start feeling terrible because they are building this strength really quickly. Their body's not ready for it. And then they hit this plateau and they can't build strength anymore. And they feel terrible in the pool because they went too fast into it. What we're doing here is we're building that strength so that you never slow down with the strength. You'll slow down eventually. But we're not hitting plateaus, right? We're just keep going with this linear path for a long time, which is lovely. And we're recovering from it, and it's not interfering with anything else. When you go into stuff really intense straight away, you're just going to hit a ceiling. Loads of things are going to slow down. Your body is going to send loads of resources and going to take away from other areas of your life to try and adapt to this thing that you don't even really want to adapt to it. That's why this is brilliant, because when we build strength slowly, it lasts longer, right? We're not going to hit plateaus. We're going to, even if you stop training, the longer you take to build that strength, the longer it's going to stick around as well, even if you stop. Not that you should stop. If you're starting this, you're starting it to be doing it for, really, as long as you're alive, probably, because it's really good for you. Transfer to athletic movements. We talked about the compression expansion stuff and helping you get more in tune with your body. If you're just doing isolated body movements, if you're just doing push-pull leg splits, if you're doing a lot of what people are teaching in the mainstream stuff, it's not going to help you very much transfer that to athletic movements. And yes, swimming is athletic. We need to try and understand that. So, key takeaways. Strength training does not need to be complicated. Pick 5 exercises. Your choice of a squat, hinge, push, pull, spinal move, some sort. If you follow me on Instagram, you can probably just take something from there. Keep the main thing the main thing. We are trying to do this to get better at swimming. Make sure that we do not take away from swimming with strength training, even in the beginning. You're going to feel sore in the beginning, but you should still be able to train properly. And make it not suck. Maybe it's going to be fun for you, but you need to make it at least not suck so that you are willing to turn up. And if you turn up long enough, then you create the habit, and then you're just turning up anyway. You don't even have to think about it, right? That is the most important part, because you cannot see results with training unless you do it for a long time, right? Because training results are temporary. You got to stack that stuff. So I think that's it. If you guys have questions, then you can DM me. You can leave a comment on the post. Try and get back to you. If you want to sign up for the Launchpad membership, if you're someone who is not really sure on where to start in the gym, that Launchpad program is going to give you all the answers. You walk through it within our app. You'll have videos, exercise instructions. You'll be able to walk through our app where you can record your weights. So each week you can see what you did last time. It's going to be all right there. It's going to make this process much easier for you, and we're going to have some extra stuff in there for you in the workouts as well that's also going to help. So yeah, if you want that, there'll be a link somewhere for that, or you can just DM me and I will send you the link to that Launchpad program. It's $29 a month, not a big investment for what you're going to get, and especially for you starting your strength journey, that is one of the biggest investments that you can make in your career. If you think about spending hundreds of bucks on a race suit is going to make you faster, but first of all, you're going to need to buy another one next year, and it's not actually changing you as an athlete. Relative to what you're spending on like other stuff in swimming, 29 bucks, it is an amazing investment. You're going to get so much out of it. It's going to change how you're swimming. If you want that, just send me a DM. If you've got questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. Hope this was useful. That's it.